All right. So welcome everybody. Thank you. This is a CCI-led panel titled Life After College, What's Next? So thank you for taking the time out of your evenings to come out today and answer some really important questions going on in students' mind, given the current COVID pandemic, on top of just the crazy competitive job market that we all might be entering post-undergraduate. I'd like to give a really warm welcome to our four panelists here. Min, and please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Min Lee, Adit Gupta, Steve Irf, and Riddhi Amesar. I'll let you all introduce yourselves since you will do a much better job at it than I could, right? So yeah, I think that can be the first question. If y'all would like to take it away, tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Min. I'm currently a senior in computer science at Drexel, and my two concentration is data structure and algorithms and artificial intelligence. I'm currently on a virtual internship at Google working on the Chrome OS team, which was supposed to be based in Seattle, but given the situation. And yeah, happy to answer any questions anyone have.
I can go next. Hey guys, my name is Adit Gupta. I'm going to be going into my second year of my PhD at Drexel. And I went to Drexel for my undergrad as well. I did software engineering. I'd done all three co-ops and internships, and also a large portion of my undergrad was working on a startup called Vibe. And so I'd also be happy to, answer questions about graduate school, startup stuff, co-ops, and anything of the above.
I guess I can go next. My name is Steve Irth. I just finished my third year as a PhD student. I'm actually a returning student, so computer science is actually sort of a second field for me. So prior to this, I was a high school math teacher, and I'd been doing that for quite some time. I also have some background in game design.
That's awesome. Hey guys, my name is Riddhi. I am, I guess, a Drexel graduate as of now. I just graduated in June. I am currently a program manager at Microsoft. I'm currently in the Seattle area. I just relocated literally last month, so I am fresh on, the job market, I guess, and actually starting a job. At my time at Drexel, I completed 3 co-ops. I majored in computer engineering while I was there. Did a whole bunch of clubs and activities, really enjoyed my time there as well, so happy to assist in that. I did my last co-op at Microsoft, which helped me transition to a full-time career, so happy to ask questions or answer any questions that you guys have.
Awesome. Thank you all for those really wonderful introductions. So the first question I'd like to ask is maybe to get some context into how you've ended up where you've ended up now. I wanted to ask, when you first entered college, Steve, sorry, this might be asking you to think about a little bit way back when, but when you first, started off as an undergraduate, where did you expect to be, and how does that level up to where you are now? Feel free to, take it in whatever order.
I guess, sure, I can start. I think my situation was very all over the place. I actually entered college as a wannabe political science major, and then I actually majored in economics. So I actually have no prior programming experience. But then I think I realized economics was not a suitable major for me. And I actually tried out an intro class in computer science and really enjoy it. And I switched my major to computer science. And that's where I'm currently now. So I guess one overall thing I can say is that you definitely don't need any crazy prior programming knowledge, and I definitely didn't think I would end up where I am today in my major.
I think for me, similar to Min, I also came in as a business and engineering major at Lebeau, and I actually went to my first hackathon at Penn Apps. It was over at the Wells Fargo Center, and that really made me realize that I wanted to build cool things. And as a B&E major, I wouldn't be able to. None of my classes were teaching me how to learn how to build that stuff. So literally the week after I changed my major. And then throughout my undergrad, I gotten the opportunity. The biggest, I guess, tip for anyone for that is expose yourself to as much diverse experiences as possible, different clubs. I'd made sure that all of my internships were in all different industries, because so that I could see how different industries operate. In research, I did the STAR program in healthcare, in the government, in big tech. I ended up going to graduate school because I realized I wanted to still kind of figure out what I want to do, and also explore interesting niche sort of software, kind of go deep into that a little bit. And so that's why I kind of didn't go into industry just quite yet.
So I guess in my particular case, I had always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a little kid, as far back as I can remember. And so when I went to college, I had my idea in my head that, oh, I want to be a teacher. And I did teaching for my first couple years out of college. I realized, whoa, this wasn't quite what I thought it was. I still loved the idea, but I was just so bad at it. So I was like, I need a little break. And so I took a break for a few years, and then I went back to it, and I did teaching for like 5 or 6 years again. And I ended up in this pattern of about every 5 or 6 years, I would take a break for a couple years from teaching, and always with the idea that I would go back to it. And I found it kind of gives me it sort of prevents teacher burnout, which can be a real problem. And whatever I do, I always do something different. So I'll teach for a while and then enter something totally different for just a few years, and then go back to teaching. And I think it keeps me fresh and gives me a new perspective on things. And so this is actually one of my breaks from teaching. And my hope is that after I finish the dissertation, I'll go back to teaching high school, much to the chagrin of my advisors, who are like, at least teach college. But so we'll see. But yeah, this is a completely a change for me, like learning computer science from scratch, because I had no background in CS. But it's kind of cool to be a student again.
Getting a PhD sounds like one crazy break.
That's really awesome. I actually started out at Drexel actually wanting to focus in STEM education. I did the Dragons Teach program for quite a while, actually, because I wanted to see if I could actually teach at some point, whether that be like high school or college or something like that. I had a really strong interest in education. I also wanted to get into fintech. I kind of was trying to figure out like what I liked and what I didn't like. So similar to Adit, I highly recommend doing each of your co-ops in a completely different industry to just expose yourself to like different people, different topics, different concepts, even like to the point where if you're going to bigger companies versus like startups, and just trying to figure out like what is your literal vibe, like what do you like, what do you want to see, where do you see yourself kind of growing. And like I think that's so hard to ask yourself as a freshman or sophomore when you just don't even know all the possibilities and opportunities out there. But the only way that you're going to figure that out is if you put yourself out there. So go check it out, do hackathons, do whatever you want, just figure out like what you like, and if you don't like it, walk away, because there's so much more that's waiting for you.
Yeah, awesome. So it seems like the recurring theme was that, it seemed like all of you didn't really imagine yourself being where you were now when you started. And I think that's a really important, point to drive across, is that there really is a lot out there in the world that we don't know about. And it seems that you all took a lot of time exploring the options and are still currently exploring the options. In Steve's case, it doesn't seem like it seems like you're still really exploring the options, right? Learning programming even after having, this whole career in teaching, which kind of leads us into this next question. So a lot of our students, are kind of in this period in their life where they're about to make this big shift, right? From being an undergraduate student to perhaps entering industry, or to maybe starting their own business, or pursuing a graduate program. And so, after doing all this exploration and kind of, getting a taste for what it's like in different areas of the world, what factors did you consider most important when you're kind of evaluating and making your decision about like, okay, what am I going to do next? What's my next step? Especially because the world seems a lot more open, right? After you get your bachelor's. This might be a really good question for you to start off with, Min, since you're currently in that process right now.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, I did definitely have that dilemma where I was considering the possibility of grad school, because I actually took a course on algorithms and like I was really into it. I was like, this is actually really great. But at the same time, I also enjoy my experience in industry, but I don't want to limit myself and just decide to go straight into industry right away. So I definitely force myself to explore options. So I actually met with a professor in CCI who actually taught my algorithm class. And I asked to sit in like a group meeting with all the PhD students actually. So, and I also talked with a couple of PhD students on whether like should I explore grad school and etc. And then what I realized is that actually to do a PhD is like definitely a really huge commitment, especially for me, since even though I was interested in the topic, like the actual time and knowledge required, again, like I've never been an actual PhD student, so this is just my impression, but the actual time and like commitment required to do a PhD require that you really have to be passionate about the topic. You will have to commit yourself to like long time. It's not like a 1 year commitment. And for me, I was more on the threshold of just not really sure and not exactly passionate or know exactly what topic I want to explore. So I think for me, going back to the industry was a more like concrete step, because I feel like for me, I still have so many things in the industry I want to learn. And I'm not very certain about like the commitment of 5 years. And there's also another important thing that consider, especially in COVID situation, is also your finance status as well. And I think, again, like definitely going to industry depend like on what area you like. The finance situation will be different, especially if you have student loan or debt that you need to pay right away. So yeah, I guess it's very different on different circumstance. But for me personally, I feel that industry was a way better suit for me and something I definitely want to return to.
So it sounds like, you know, given the current situation, what you really prioritized was your flexibility and kind of keeping your options open, given the uncertainty around everything that's going on right now.
Yes, definitely. Because I think for me, like industry, after 1 or 2 years, I can still return and do a PhD if I really feel the need to. And I think like it's not good to just commit to a PhD when you're very uncertain about like what your research topic or areas is. For me, I was very uncertain. And I realized that my interest in algorithm was just more very surface level, like at the very intro level. And definitely there's way more that I don't know. And I realized at that point, like, yes, like maybe I'm just interested in it as a topic, but maybe not necessarily do like deep research in it.
So yeah, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I feel like even to like add to what like Min's saying, a huge thing for me too was trying to figure out like where graduate school fit in the equation. I didn't really want to go right from my master's like right after undergrad for a couple of reasons, just because I felt like I wanted to go ahead and start paying off that student loans. One, because I think that was like a huge thing on my back that I wanted to go get rid of. The second thing is a lot of companies actually offer programs and give you money for going back to grad school, especially if it fits with your career goals. So like I was lucky enough for Microsoft's like, hey, you can get $10,000 per year to go back to do your grad school classes, which seems like an awesome perk because I really don't want to take on another set of student loans. Specifically for me, I wanted to go back and get my MBA because it's a little bit more aligned with my career goals. So kind of sticking around to a PhD or a master's program wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. But I will say that that's kind of one of the benefits of industry is if your company really values you, if you really want to be advancing your career, but you still want to be part of industry, doing part-time programs, especially right now with COVID, is like a great opportunity. A lot of them are actually waiving the GMAT or GRE requirements since people can't take tests right now. So like if you want to go ahead and go into industry, feel free to also apply to grad programs too. But you can always do them online or virtually, or you can even do them in the evening or part-time or on weekends, like whatever you want to do. But you also do have that employer support where you are getting the money. So you can still pay off your student loans, take care of your own responsibilities and finances, but still have that security of having a job. So always an opportunity for people if you're trying to figure out if you want to do both or, you know, either or.
Maybe to follow up a little bit on the grad school theme. So yes, I concur, especially at the PhD level, it is a major commitment. So this is actually my third time through grad school. The first 2 times I originally was like, oh yeah, I'll go for a PhD, and just got really bogged down in the dissertation. And I got through all the classes, which was hard enough. And then comes the actual research part, and just got really demoralized and just felt like it wasn't going anywhere. And I kind of was like, okay, this is not what I want to be doing right now. And so I left. And this is my third time through, but I feel like I got a better picture now and I'm more mature. So I think it's always been on my bucket list to actually contribute to the world of research and do a dissertation. So third time's the charm. But going back to the original question about, what do we prioritize in terms of what we're looking for me, it kind of came down to two things, one more important than the other. So I'll do the lesser important one first. And that is location. So I've always been a big city person, and I've tried to like learn different things and experience different styles of things. I actually did try living in a rural area once and realized it was not for me. No offense to Eastern Kentucky, but just not for me. Leave it at that. So I do like the big city atmosphere. So that was always a factor for me. But probably the even more important factor is the people there. So either the people that you're going to be with or the people that you're working with. I know when I went to grad school this time, I was making sure that when I was going for the interviews that I was also interviewing them, and seeing who my advisor was going to be and meeting the different people that would be in the programs that I'd be involved with. And that was really, for me, the deciding factor for choosing Drexel. Was I really liked my advisor. We had like a lot in common and we hit it off. And I met some of the people at Castle, which I don't know if you're familiar with Castle, but I met some of the people there and really liked them. And yeah, I felt like, yeah, these are people that I could spend the next 6-7 years with working together. So I think it's really important. I mean, you could have like the best paying job in the world, but if you're working for a horrible boss and it's going to make your life miserable, it's not worth it.
I can chime in a little bit also. I think on the PhD matter, I have been in a scenario where my first PhD advisor wasn't a good fit. However, I think you do have the flexibility to take time to understand like whose work style vibes with you most. And additionally, I think also take into account your risk tolerance. So early in your career, I think you should, I think you should be more risky in terms of like what kind of work you want to do, because you'll have your entire life to like do a job that you can do for a long time. So a PhD, I think, will also give you the opportunity to do more internships, for example, if you're into that. If you're not sure which industry to work with. So that's kind of another point to consider.
Awesome. Welcome back, Steve. We lost you for a second. No, thank you for those answers. I think those are a lot of really good points. And I think Steve's point, right, of considering the people and place where you're working with is something that we don't really talk about too often when we tell grad students or we're telling undergrad students. It's like, this is something you should consider for your job. I think most of the time people are like, look at the salary, look at the brand name. Like, is it Google? Are you getting 6 figures? Go, right? And people never tell you. It's like, evaluate the team that you're working with. Do you actually like the people you're working with? Is the culture the fit for you? I think those are really important questions that are kind of understated, at least in some spaces. So here's a more fun question, a little less thought intensive, but what is a recent purchase for less than $100 that you've made in the past year or so that has greatly improved your quality of life? So this could be like a product, this could be a subscription, anything, just something that has really brought a lot of value into your life that you've recently bought.
I think for me, it's multiple items, but all of them are very cheap. So actually, for quarantine, I've been trying to read more lately because I really enjoy reading. And I discovered this website called thriftsbooks.com, and each book is like only $5, and the cost of shipping is like free if you buy like 2 books. So actually, I've been like buying a lot of books and just read them recently, and like, I mean, like, it doesn't add up to $100. Like, if you can read like 20 books during quarantine, that's like a lot of books. So I think that was something that like really improved my quality of life lately, because I realized like Drexel is like a co-op school. Like, we are all very busy. Like, we don't really always have time to enjoy our hobbies or like meet with friends, and like we're always like swamped with homework and co-ops. And I think like having the time to like actually just sit down, like read, or maybe do something that you have always enjoyed before really like relax me. And I think that's like really have greatly improved like my quality of life lately.
Yeah, I wish I had a as intellectual an answer as Min there with that. So my first thought was, and again, just kind of recent because it only happened about a month ago or so, but I recently got a subscription to Netflix. And so I'm not going to say like, oh, it's totally changed my life or anything like that. But I think it is important when you're working to also set aside time, you know, for yourself to relax and have a break. And so now it's also kind of a reward to myself where I say, oh yeah, if I finish this paper or, you know, write my intro here, I'm going to allow myself to watch another episode of Umbrella Academy or whatever it happens to be, right? So yeah, I'm really enjoying, I mean, some of the stuff is crap that's on Netflix, but there's some pretty good stuff too. So yeah, it helps me keep up that balance of having something on the side besides work and school.
I'm amazed you've gotten this far without a Netflix subscription. It was like the thing. Everybody, and plus people always share their accounts. Like I'll give mine away all the time. Adit, Riddhi, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I have a purchase, but it's not $100. It's like $200. So, but
it's in the ballpark. I'll take it.
So I bought an electric scooter. So it's like $270 or something like that. But I bought it because I live in Center City and I'm still, well, in March before COVID happened, I was still an RA. So I was an RA at Stiles Hall. And what I would spend so much money on Uber or going to meetings or going to see my advisor, you know, from Center City, but with my electric scooter, my commute time is cut by like 90% probably. I haven't sat in an Uber in months. And for me, I think it was probably the best investment of a couple years in my opinion. So yeah, go for electric scooters. Also emission-free, sustainability, go green.
That sounds so cool because I think I really want one now. I'm sick of like riding that Drexel shuttle back and forth between Center City and campus. So that's an awesome purchase. So because since COVID and everything, a lot of gyms have been closed. So pretty much what I have been spending my money on is like setting up like a personal like mini gym in like our spare bedroom. So like that's kind of like been my focus just because I feel like it's been raining a lot. It's been kind of gross. So I haven't been even like had a chance to like go outside. So just having like a space in the house where I can like go do some yoga or I can like go do some HIIT or like whatever. And just really take my mind away from things. Also, I feel like a lot of that work-life balance has kind of been destroyed with COVID. So like having like a separate part of the house like to go away and to like de-stress and decompress has been like so beneficial. So that's like my home gym setup that has, you know, been over $100 probably, but it's been worth it.
Wow, those are some really great answers. Yeah, I think that Min and Steve's answers really touch on something that, and your answer too, Riddhi, that we don't really make enough time for not work stuff. And that might just be a Drexel thing, or it might be a increasingly kind of societal thing, because it seems like so many people share this struggle of finding, you know, this like proverbial work-life balance, right? But what does that really mean? It seems that they kind of intermingle far more than people really expect. So yeah. And Audit, your answer about saving time for commutes, also very valuable. I was actually thinking of getting an electric scooter or like a boosted board or something like that, just because it's like, I see people riding around on it and it's like, it looks pretty cool, and all the things you said, right? Mission free. So yeah, thank you for those. Moving on, this is a question that yeah, again, sorry, Min, since you know you're a senior, you might have a lot of insight into this since you're in the process currently. But someone asked, do you have any advice for finding jobs currently, given the pandemic, and how are you adjusting to applying for jobs now that a lot of applications and interviews are happening remotely? And if anybody else has answers to this as well or insights to this as well, please chime in.
Yeah, so I think I am actually on the very fortunate side that for my co-op, I actually find early on. So I guess my biggest first advice to everyone for finding job is just apply as early as possible. Like don't wait, like don't like, oh, I need some like a lot of time to like maybe apply like 3 or 4 months later. Because a lot of people feel like the scariness, like, oh, I'm not ready. Well, I think in my opinion is like, even when you apply for a job, it usually took them like 1 or 2 months for people even to review your application. So you actually have a lot of time in between of just clicking the button apply and actually like get interview. So I guess like my biggest advice would actually be just apply as early as possible, because some company, like big company, at least I know for my company, Google, it's actually hired on a rolling basis. So if you apply late, like even if you actually qualify and a great programmer, like by that time they already have enough fill of the applications, and like you actually will miss your chance. So I definitely would advise like just browse like the biggest like job search website, whether it be LinkedIn, Indeed, like whatever that like you have used that works, and just basically check like for like set a time like each day and just have a target number, like I'll apply like to 10 like latest job posted today, like depend on like what number you're aiming for. But that's what I did for like searching my co-op. I always search them very early and often get like offer back like around like October or November, because I think when you like apply early, like that's when also most like big company hiring time would be.
And to echo that, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So to even echo that, so I think that that's kind of a huge thing. Like I know Microsoft is recruiting like right now. So like if you're interested in the company, like go ahead, go apply. Similar to Google, it's on a rolling basis. So the sooner you apply, the sooner you increase your chances. Another caveat that I even add to that too is make sure that your LinkedIn profile is identical to your resume. A lot of recruiters really do look through LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of those keywords are often found in your bullet points, and people pretty much just put the company that they're working at on the role. But I highly recommend like putting those bullet points onto your actual profile. So when you're like, oh yeah, like, you know, this was my role and then here's what I actually did. So a recruiter actually knows what your experience is, rather than just, you know, co-op at Exelon or co-op here. So make sure that you actually put that in. That's exactly how I got my job. Is a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn because they said, oh wow, like your profile matches this job description, you should go ahead and apply. LinkedIn's also owned by Microsoft, so that's another great way to get into the company, is like have a fantastic LinkedIn profile, because people are always looking for those keywords. So yeah, just like keep trying. I know especially right now with the pandemic, a lot of companies do have hiring freezes, but if you look into the tech sector, like we're pretty much kind of safe, which is awesome, because like we're booming, like Amazon's booming, you know, Microsoft, like all these big tech companies are more profitable than ever. So right now they're literally hiring and they're going for that new talent. So keep pushing, don't feel defeated and everything else like that too, because obviously, you know, receiving rejection is never easy for anybody, but like realize that there is a job out there for you, you will get it. Just keep looking and, you know, make sure that you meet up with the qualifications, and it's, you know, and even like reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn, like just keep pushing until you get it.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, I'm super jealous of all the Drexel undergrads because of that co-op experience, because there was nothing like that, you know, when I was an undergrad. And I was like, oh, that's so amazing that you have like all this experience right as soon as you're done, you know, graduating, you have experience at like multiple companies, you know, like a year's worth plus of experience is pretty cool. I think Drexel also has a pretty good sort of placement office to help people look for jobs. Where I was as an undergrad, they had a decent one, but Drexel really sort of prides themselves on getting their grads in prestigious places. I think we're also blessed at CCI that there's, you know, as Riddhi pointed out, you know, lots of opportunities in the tech sector. I know when I was an undergrad, you know, there was no LinkedIn. I'm kind of dating myself, but you know, the internet really didn't exist in the form that it is now. So yeah, in terms of like actual agencies that help you find places, it was, you know, you go to the military or you apply for a government job. And the government had this big clearinghouse of you know, options where you could go to, especially like if you're going to teach in the public school sector, you could, you know, pick a district and find out like which districts were hiring and so forth. But there are also the sort of I know the teaching end, not so much the tech end of it, but you know, just like there are headhunter agencies that there are for tech, I think that exists in other fields as well that I've been involved in, you know, especially for teaching. There are agencies that cater to just helping you get a job at a religious school or just helping you get a job at a charter school. So there are all these kind of umbrella organizations that can help with that depending on your interest.
So 3 things. First, I think also like quality and quantity. You want to reach out to a lot of people, but something that worked for me was directed messages on LinkedIn. I actually was able to get like 2 internships just messaging recruiters and asking them advice. And I think a lot of people, they go reach out to someone and they're like, give me a job. But I think it's like you have to work with people and make a long lasting relationship with them. So maybe factor that in for internship search. There's also 2 questions in the Q&A in the chat that haven't been answered regarding do you recommend looking into schools with global MBA programs? So I have a slight bit of experience about this because of my startup experience. I think with MBA programs, you want to look into schools that are probably top 5, top 10, because you're going to be spending 200, 250 grand out of pocket for them. And sometimes you could even look into executive MBA programs when you're working at a company full time. So I'm not sure if a global MBA program is different, but I know the 2 most popular executive MBA programs and just regular MBA programs. Look into top 5, top 10. You're not going to get people go to MBA schools for the prestige of the name, like the Stanfords and the Harvards, and also the alumni access and the networking effect. And you're not going to find that at like a 600 rank school. Graduate school versus job. So I actually, graduating from Drexel, I actually had a full-time job at Amazon, and that was probably the toughest decision of my life. Should I go for that? Should I go to graduate school? And for me, again, it's risk tolerance. Is that job going to be there in a couple of years? Probably. And my deciding factor was my immediate goals for my life for the next 3 to 5 years. Would I be able to do those like during work or during graduate school? So it's going to be different for everyone. So just factor in your risk that you want to take, your objective, your financial situation, and kind of make a model out of it in Excel or notes. And I guarantee that'll be helpful.
So if I could chime in on one last thing.
Yeah, please.
On the topic of the whole, just in general, searching for a job. So just some general advice is don't be afraid of rejection. Now maybe the other panelists have had a different experience, but I know for me, I easily get, 8+ rejections for every acceptance that I get. And it's nothing against you personally. There could be any number of reasons why they said no, right? So, even back when I was applying to undergrads, I applied to 7 schools to go to college, and I got rejected to every single one. So, and that was my very first time, as a teenager, like getting rejected. But it's happened multiple times since then where I applied for jobs. I was really hoping, finally there's an opening at my fantasy company that I want to work for. And, you go through the first round, it's fine. And then after that, they're like, no, we went in a different direction. So unfortunately, that's just a part of life, and you have to get used to that. But you just keep on trying. I think Adit mentioned, quantity is important. So send out a lot, because you don't know who's going to say yes or catch someone's eye.
Yeah, actually, I just want to quickly chime into Steve as well, because I think what he said was very relatable to me. I actually applied to like a lot of jobs during A round at Drexel, probably more than like 10 companies. And actually, I got rejected from every single one of them for my first co-op. And I really thought like, oh my God, like I'm a really horrible person. I'm a very horrible programmer. I had a bad resume. And turned out Google was actually my first offer. So I think it was very unexpected for me, because I really thought like if I got rejected from every single company at Drexel, that means like big companies not even gonna like look at my resume, like it's not worth it. But like Steve said, like, yeah, you have to apply that. You have to keep on going, and like don't let that rejection like just like think that like affect your self-esteem, or think that, oh, you're not worthy of like a different company or like some company that is at your reach.
Yeah, thank you for that. I also just want to note that, like, please treat this like a, an open discussion, right? Like, we don't have to stay on prompt, and we don't have to stay on script. Just because I think that, when you're sharing ideas and you're talking, there'll be like these light bulb moments that you need to share, and I think that'll be a lot of value for anybody who is listening currently, or anybody who decides to watch later down the line. But yeah, that being said, Adit actually said something kind of interesting that I wanted to dig into a bit more. So earlier, one of the things that we talked about was kind of having this value on flexibility, right? And part of the reason why Min chose industry is because she felt like she had more flexibility for her own personal goals. What flexibility do you get out of pursuing your PhD program now, since you mentioned that you had to really grapple, right? And I'd imagine, right, back then you said you had a job at Amazon, so you could probably move around, and jump, because it's like very popular to jump from like Amazon to Facebook and so on, right? Like you probably had your choices. So what kind of flexibility can you afford now that you're pursuing your PhD that you wouldn't have had if you were a software engineer?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So a typical first year of a PhD, what it looks like is, sometimes if you transition into a school that, you're going to, you may not have an advisor. So it's like advisor search. Other times you may be applying to a school and you already have a relationship with an advisor and, there's a research topic. So what's going to happen, you're going to take 2 to maximum of 3 classes per term or semester. And outside of that, you'll do a TA-ship, which is, you're a teaching assistant, or a research assistantship, or sometimes even both. So PhD is demanding in that sense. However, it can work out in scenarios where you sort of find opportunities that work for you. For example, my first year, I was interested, again, in like that startup aspect. I was the TA for senior design. And specifically, I was the TA for people that wanted to do a senior design to convert their idea into a venture. So that, like, if throughout your PhD, you would be able to, if you put yourself out there and sort of search opportunities, you'd be able to simultaneously kind of do 2 birds, 1 stone, where you're doing exciting work, you're doing meaningful work that counts for your PhD. I think until second year, you'll be doing classes and whatnot, but then after that is really when your rigorous research will probably kick in. So I haven't gotten to that yet, but for me, some things to keep in mind were, I wanted to be able to do internships at where I'm currently working and try out different departments, but I also want to stay involved in mentoring other younger ventures, or maybe even continue working on one of my own. So, so there's a lot of things, and I think for me the difficulty would have been working for a bigger company, sort of a PhD. While it's a job, it's not really, you wouldn't have to really go into an office, but nowadays, you don't have to go into an office for any company. So if only I factored that in advance, right? So yeah, it's the flexibility of taking meetings at 1 p.m. if you want to. So that's the kind of flexibility that comes with it. It's a job. You can work from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then after 9 p.m. and your day is for you. So that's the kind of, like, there's a lot of things like that to consider.
Yeah, Steve, do you have anything else, since you're later on?
Just to follow up on something Adit just said. So like he mentioned about how he took his sort of entrepreneurial experience that he had and kind of found a good niche for that in the people that wanted to do stuff in the senior design. So in general, I think regardless of what you do, whether it's a TA or something in the industry, don't feel like, I mean, yes, obviously it's important to, follow the expectations of what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, don't feel like you can't make your own opportunities. Like you always have, if there's something you're driven and you want to do, I mean, you can make it happen. Most places and have a way for you to kind of follow something that you really want to do. Like in my particular case, so I followed the TA path that Adit had mentioned, but because of my teaching experience, really wanted to teach, they actually created this special kind of TA position that lets me teach my own classes. So, so they'd never really had that before. We have a TA that's essentially acting as an instructor, and so now I have my own TA, even though I'm a TA teaching for the summer. But that's the kind of thing where if you want to do something, work with people and try to see if you can you could make that happen even if it wasn't part of the original job description.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think those are some really wise words. And maybe this is a bit of a tangent, but you know, recently I was reading a study about kind of like how people find happiness in the workplace. And as it turns out, when you don't feel like you have any control over your job, you are less happy with your job and you're also less productive. And it seems that, you know, part of the reason why you all chose the opportunities you are currently pursuing is that they provided you enough flexibility and autonomy to, you know, kind of create your own responsibilities and work as you see fit. And it seems to be working out. Like you all seem to be very, you know, amazing. Yeah, so thank you for that. Right. Moving on to the next question we had. One student asked, what are some skills or what is a skill that you think is really essential to, you know, succeed either in the workforce, in academia, just, you know, in general after you graduate, that isn't really taught to our students in CCI or COE currently?
I have sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
So I have a very brief answer to that. It's something that in educational studies that comes up a lot, but it's not anything just specific to students necessarily, to student success, but there's this concept of something called grit. So it's kind of become almost a buzzword now in pedagogic circles, but I think it exists in other industries as well. But essentially the idea is, you know, perseverance in the face of adversity, not getting, you know, not letting the man get you down or not letting your failures get you down and sticking to it. And that's, you know, it's so easy in life to give up when things aren't going your way. So that ability, you know, the grit to be able to stick with something is, I think, vital to success, whether it be in school or in the workplace.
I was going to say something incredibly similar. I was just going to say like perseverance and stuff like that. I think grit is number one, very important. To me, something that's also been helpful is always try to figure out where you can be a value provider and value creator. So I try to connect people that might be able to help each other out, or just other opportunities where I know that doing XYZ can provide value to another person or organization, even if you get nothing in return. I feel like there's a really good book by Adam Grant, an organizational psychologist at Penn, called Give and Take. And it's most people like nowadays give something and they expect something, and that kind of relationship is toxic. So ever since I read that book, my philosophy has always been to kind of just give unconditionally and it'll work out long term. So I would say that really helped me out in like my mindset, and I would recommend everyone to read that book as well.
What was the name of that book again? Can you type it in the chat or something?
Yep, I'll type it in the chat. It's Give and Take by Adam Grant.
Yeah, I think to tack on both to Steve and Adit as well, I think like I was gonna say again, like something similar to perseverance. I think it's actually a super important skill in computer science, because especially in the industry, because most of the time you're gonna have to like waste hours, maybe just trying to find that one bug. And a lot of main reason why a lot of people gave up computer science, especially in the intro or like 100 or 200 level class, is that they feel like, oh, like this is like too much work. Like I just can't do this. Like they expect it to be something very simple, easy. And unfortunately, like sometime in coding, like it is something that requires a lot of time and effort. And I've seen that like, also this is like more like a on a tangent topic as well, especially with as a woman in computer science. I feel like a lot of women feel very, oh my God, like I have no knowledge of programming before. I'm scared, like everyone seems to get it like right away. And like, it took me like way more time to do this problem, therefore I'm not good enough and I should like switch major. And I've seen that with a lot of my female friends who like will initially computer science major and then they drop out and like maybe try something easier, because like, you know, but one thing that people don't realize that like outside the success, like behind the success is a lot of like time spent working on something that a lot of people don't see. And I just want to like give advice, especially like to freshmen, like anyone who like majoring in CS, like don't try to compare yourself with other people. Like, yes, some people might solve a problem like faster, but as long as you keep at it, like as long as you keep working on it and like have the passion like to solve it, I think like you'll do fine. Like you don't need to like be perfect or like solve something very fast and like be all amazing.
I think I'd like to echo all of that. I think you guys said some awesome points about all of it. I think that imposter syndrome is such a big thing that pops up regardless of where you go, whether you're in industry, graduate school, like undergrad, like it's something that you're constantly faced with because, you know, your biggest adversity is like yourself sometimes and like trying to like get over that fear over yourself. I actually heard a really good quote today. It was winners train and losers complain. So pretty much like if you're trying to be successful, if you're trying to get that job, if you're trying to do something, you're trying to learn a new skill, like keep at it. Like no one, you know, was born a master programmer. Like it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. And pretty much anyone that makes it look easy is because they've trained their butt off. So, I mean, you can complain, you can give up, that's on you. But like everybody else that like is trying to succeed or trying to like actually, you know, be somewhere, it's like actually working really hard. And I think that's something that isn't as highlighted anymore. I think everyone like, especially if you like scroll through LinkedIn, everyone's like, oh, I got this job, oh, I got this opportunity, or I won this award. But like no one ever shows you like how long it took that person to get to that point or get to that place. So just always keep that in mind that in order to get anywhere, you really have to push yourself, you have to work hard, and like there's a lot of things that come as a result of it. Very small things in life are lucky. But really, if you want to get somewhere and you want to do something, you really got to work your butt off. So that was my quote of the day.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think that was like a really valuable addition because it seems to me that, you know, I think and please correct me, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it seems to me that it, like technical skill wise, right, and like competency wise, your institution will provide you that, right? Like in theory, if you take the classes and you try hard, you will get the knowledge. But what doesn't seem to be taught in, you know, our classes in our institutions is just like, you know, these cultural things and these things that like make us better people and happier people and more productive people. And so I think that that is a really big takeaway for our students, that, you know, if you go through an institution, right, you'll get the skills, right? You can work hard and become a good programmer. But what's really hard and what people won't teach you is how to be a happy programmer and to be happy with your skills and with where you're at, which I think is something that we should all really, you know, take away and work on. So thank you for that. Yeah. So we are nearing the end of the hour for, you know, official question kind of scripted stuff. I wanted to take a couple of minutes and give you all the opportunity, if you wanted to share, you know, any like social media or anything that you're working on currently that you'd like people to support. So, you know, if this is your time to kind of get in your soapbox and let us know where we should all follow you and throw money at you, if that is if you're like working on a product or something like that.
I would just I would say for everyone who's watching now and later, make sure you make a LinkedIn, and like it really will help. Make sure you keep it so much so up to date with coursework, with people you meet, even if it's for 5 minutes, add them on LinkedIn. It'll help you in the future. Make sure you post stuff, professional stuff, articles, and also add me on LinkedIn. Shoot me questions. If you need advice, or if you have questions about PhD programs, startup stuff, my blog is connected on LinkedIn, so you can read all that stuff there. So happy to help with all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if my email is attached to this like meeting, but I just want to like say to everyone who's watching this too, like I'm currently interning at Google and I'm actually like referring a lot of people. So if anyone interested in working, like honestly, feel free just to email me your resume. Like I'm happy to take referrals, because the first time I applied to Google, I actually just know no one who worked there, and I just like mass apply, like just send it on the internet. And I was so scared. I feel like, oh, I need to know someone. And I think that like now I kind of want to give back the opportunity, like, hey, like if you don't know anyone who work like at Google and you actually need a referral, like feel free to like shoot me like resume at my email.
Yeah, plus one to that too, feel free to send me an email, feel free to message me on LinkedIn, like whatever you guys need, like happy to help. I think we've all done some awesome co-ops as well, so feel free to ask about any of those experiences. Happy to connect you to some previous employers as well. I know a big thing is like getting like co-op resume reviews and stuff like that. I think the biggest thing is to use upperclassmen or graduates to basically take a look at it and be like, hey, like this shouldn't be there, or hey, like I think you should add this. And having that like perspective of someone that's in industry will really just be able to, you know, help you out, especially when you've been staring at the same resume forever, like you miss things. So having someone else take a look at it is definitely a great benefit. So happy to look at resumes, happy for referrals. Like, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to message me. Thanks, guys.
So this isn't a plug for any particular company that I own or work for or co-op with or anything like that, but just thought I would throw in this plug that if you haven't spoken to your parents this month, drop them a line. They would probably enjoy hearing from you. If it's just to send them a quick text saying, hey, I'm excited about school starting soon, or some of you may be living with your parents, but if you're not, they probably would appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you for that. I think all of the dads and moms are going to really appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you so much. Cool. I, again, just want to give you such a big thank you and express so much gratitude on behalf of, you know, the CCI Peer Mentors and, you know, the CCI and COE community for taking the time out for your evenings. So this marks the end of our kind of official hour for questions and scripted stuff. But if the audience has any questions right now, feel free to drop them in the chat. This is kind of like free talk time where we, you know, if there's something that didn't get answered during the, you know, panel, now's the time to get it answered. Cool. We are actually getting some. So he sorry if I'm not saying that name right, asked, how much are you expected to know before your first co-op?
I think I can sort of answer this question because I think I have the same exact question. And I would say from my own personal experience is that just there's like no like exact amount of thing you need to know, like, oh, you need to know this programming language perfectly, like, oh, I need to be perfect at Java, I need to be perfect at DevOps or anything like that. I would definitely say just learn as much as possible in your free time and explore your interests. Because for me, outside of class, I was really interested in web development. So I actually like self-study like web dev and like create my own website. And I really enjoy it and it was very fun. And I think like it also teach me a lot of programming skill and I actually was able to like put it on my resume for my first internship. So I would say definitely, yeah, like for your first co-op, depending on where you apply, I would say like basic knowledge from class, basic knowledge of data structure. I think that would be a very not a long topic, which is for interviews. Yeah, basic knowledge of data structure and like just explore like a interest, like an area of interest, whether it be web development, machine learning, data science, or like just basic, anything relating to tech or programming that you're interested in, just feel free to explore it.
I think to even add to that, so I actually got my first internship just by walking through the career fair. I think a huge thing is like just like being there. I think being professional. I think the biggest part about your first internship is like they don't expect you, like Min said, like to know like pretty much anything. Like they're there to kind of teach you on the job. They're there to really see like what you can add. Like you obviously have like your first couple programming classes under your belt, so you have that basic knowledge and skill. But really, it's about like being there, understanding what a corporate environment's like, attending meetings, being professional, going on one-on-ones, like really embracing that like what is a work life, you know what I mean, like actually going through that experience. Obviously like your work really matters and you want to do a good job regardless, but really what that employer is looking for is, are you coachable? Can you learn on the job? Like where are your interests and can the employer help you build on those interests? So like I wanted to, obviously I was a computer engineering major, so I wanted to go into a job where I could actually learn how to program. And my job was great in that sense. So like, oh yeah, like we have an operating system, it's proprietary, you can go ahead, you can learn on it. And I was like, awesome. And they're like, great, like you seem someone that's enthusiastic, you seem like someone who's willing to learn. And that's literally like what they had on their checklist. And like, that's kind of what first time employers are looking for versus like, you know, like employers for co-ops that are looking for like those like, you know, junior or like, you know, pre-junior like students, like they have their own set of criteria. But for your first co-op, it's really about being presentable. It's really about being coachable, malleable, I think is the word for it, so that they can kind of, you know, form you to be a better engineer, computer scientist, whatever. So just really like be there, put your best foot forward, be the best version of yourself, and you're definitely going to put yourself in the running for that job.
I think a quick, so similar to mine, I had applied to a whole bunch of co-ops for my first one, and I was really bad at coding at the time. So when something that really helped me was throughout interviews, I knew very little, but I still kind of was persistent on trying to make sure I solved that question, whether it's a whiteboard question or a theory question before leaving. So for my first one, I worked at SIG, and I remember the question, very simple, like for loop question, but I spent an hour and a half, like every minute trying to understand it, ask hundreds of questions about like why this is happening. And I thought I did the worst job ever, but I somehow got that job. And so I think that, again, like a combination of grit and perseverance, whatever interview you do, make sure you like dive in and get Cracking the Code interview book, super helpful. Elite Code, use it. Pramp, another good resource. Pramp is for live interviewing. And also something you could do is for your first co-op, reach out to people like Min and Riddhi that are at Google, Microsoft, ask them to grill you, like interview wise, and do practice interviews with them. And that's also helpful. Even if, like, remember, long-term relationship building, even if you don't ask for that job in the first time, ask them to coach you like one call a month, which is like not a lot. So that'll go a long way long-term.
And to even add to that, like if you want to be a PM, go pick up the Cracking the PM interview book. Like they have a ton of books like that. So pretty much like do what works for you. Another thing is, if you are in interviews, because I actually had that same SIG interview where I bombed it. And I was like, oh my God, like, why am I here? And again, like that imposter syndrome, that freaking out that I did it wrong. But another thing that I did is I pretty much was like, hey, like, you know, I worked through it, I asked a whole bunch of questions. And again, my answer was still not correct. But later I went home and I figured it out. And then I emailed my recruiter and was like, hey, can you like pass this on to my interviewers? Like, I figured it out. Here's my thought process. Here's how I got there. And being able to show that, yeah, you know what, you didn't get it in that moment, but you were still thinking about it hours later and you were still trying to figure it out, shows that you're not going to give up. So if you don't know something during an interview, don't panic. Be like, I'll get back to you. And that's like a great way to continue that conversation, to show the interviewer that you actually cared. So definitely recommend doing that as well.
Yeah, I think to quickly chime on to what Riddhi said as well. Yeah, I actually, in my first Google interview, I also did really badly. I was never able to find the perfect solution, what they were looking for. Instead, I code like this very long, like code, like to do like some binary search for like a very simple problem. I never reach it. But I think that by keep trying to solve the problem I think a big mistake a lot of people do during interviews is just be completely quiet, because like they probably internally freaking out. They try to think in their head, like they're not sure like what to say. But I think keep trying to like tell your thoughts to the person who interview, like, hey, like I'm thinking of using this data structure. I'm thinking this is my approach. At least like tell them what you're thinking and like that you're really trying. I think that make a very good impression to the interviewer. And I think like that's what get me the job, even though I never find the perfect solution to that problem.
Thank you for those. I'll make sure to use a lot of those tips actually, since I'm still a student and I'm still gonna be grinding away the leak code and trying to get past those whiteboard interviews. I'm currently taking CS260, which is data structures, and so the assignment that we have due tonight is like implementing a heap and heap sort, and I'll have a lot of fun doing that after this. The question I had personally was, so it seems that I wanted to ask, where do you get, you know, your news? Where do you get your new ideas, especially in like the tech space? Because it seems right now that a lot of people are big proponents for LinkedIn for kind of like professional and tech news. Is there anything else that you use, or any other communities that you engage with?
I actually am very like, I use this a lot. It's called Reddit. I think some of you probably heard of it. But I think a great resource on Reddit is a subreddit called CS Career Questions. That's actually how I got to know about the Google internship opportunity. So there's this Google internship opportunity called STAP program, which is aimed towards freshmen and sophomore. And a lot of people actually do not know about it. The only reason I know about it was like going through this community. So if you're actually a freshman or sophomore and actually want to try your hand at like a big tech company, this would be like a very great opportunity. Also on Reddit CS Career Question, they have a weekly resume reviewing thread. So if you feel like, oh, I want more people to even look at my resume, you can actually anonymize your resume and get people to read it. And I actually got a few senior engineers to actually go to my resume and like criticize it, which I think like I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So I think it's a great forum.
I think for me personally, so for people that are interested in fintech, like my dream has always been to have a Bloomberg terminal, but they're very expensive. If you open up an Ameritrade account, you can get something that's similar to a Bloomberg terminal, but it's on a platform called Thinkorswim. So it's like a live news stream of everything happening in the world, and you can program it to like your favorite companies and stuff like that. That's for like global economic news. And then for opportunities, throughout my career, I've made sure to sign up for as many newsletters as possible, like the CCI newsletter, the Biota Incubator newsletter, and spend 1 minute, that's no longer, scanning opportunities, different things that might be aligned with your goals and whatever you're looking for. And most of the stuff that I have like been a part of has been from newsletters, surprisingly. And lastly, something I really enjoy for news is Morning Brew and some of these like email lists. So again, like financial news, but I'm not sure if you're into that. So Reddit is also a fantastic source for like specifically like CS related resources. I really like Reddit as well.
So one thing I will mention, I can't wholeheartedly endorse, but I've noticed it's kind of up and coming. Our Slack and Discord are having, like, more and more agencies are having a presence there. I've been to some conferences that essentially have their own Slack channel or Discord channel. I think Drexel also has some Discord channels for different clubs and organizations. So I think that's a good media platform to network with.
So I have like this super weird rule where like during the day I'm not allowed to like, and this is just because I have like no self-control with this, especially if I'm like binging Netflix or something, I'll watch it during the day. So my goal is, or I guess like my plan is to never watch Netflix before like 8 p.m. So then throughout the day, I'm like looking at YouTube videos, and I think like I follow like CNBC on YouTube. So all my suggestions are like various like, this is how this works, or what happened to this company, or why is this technology around? And like pretty much my entire YouTube stream, I wish was like funny videos, but like it's more like educational. So it's kind of cool to see like the politics on there, seeing what's going on in the news, you know, why is gold like going crazy? Like, so like different videos like that. So like have like kind of kept me entertained. So if I'm like having a meal, or if I have like, you know, like 10 minutes of like me folding laundry or something throughout the day, I'm like understanding or like hearing like what's going on in the world. And I'm also like doing whatever I need to do. Or like if I'm making breakfast or eating breakfast, so it's kind of like I'm not like wasting that time. So finding like little ways to like incorporate that in your life is great. There are a lot of podcasts out there. I also am a huge fan of the Morning Brew. So like if I'm just like brushing my teeth in the morning, I can like scroll through and kind of see what's happening. So just like finding like little ways to kind of still educate yourself and keep yourself going during like these awkward moments that could be necessarily considered like unproductive or just relaxing. Like if you want to put something on in the background, like highly recommend it. And if you accept some stuff, and that's great. But if, you know, if it's just for entertainment, that's cool too. So play it as you go, but highly recommend some videos on YouTube or some podcasts to keep you informed.
Thank you for those. I also use Reddit quite a bit, probably way too much. But yeah, no, I think this is a really valuable question, because Adit really, I think, drove this point home, is that, you know, the social media networks that we use today, they can be really profound tools for finding new opportunities. Like you mentioned, you know, he got his first opportunity just directly messaging recruiters on LinkedIn. So yeah, that was super awesome. Just to throw it out there, I also follow, if you're interested in like the startup space and kind of like starting your own ventures, I follow Indie Hackers, which is kind of like a Reddit specifically for like entrepreneurs and freelance writers, like people who are just trying to start their own thing, so that way they have some side income. So if that's something that you're kind of interested in, I recommend checking that out. You know, I try to be active on there, so, but I fail all the time. Yeah. Any other questions from the, there is a question from the audience. Tess asks, how valuable is having a GitHub with curated content on it with all of your coursework and personal projects?
I definitely can attest to this. I have an active GitHub, and I definitely always recommend people to have a GitHub, because especially for your first co-op, a lot of people like, I think like it's easier to talk about your project too on your and show that to recruiter, like, hey, like, you know, I did all this coding, but just simply like show your code on GitHub, and it actually doesn't take that like a lot to just keep it active. You just need to drag the project on and just come to GitHub. But I think another tip I would give is that most recruiter will not like actively look at your code like in GitHub, because like they're not really like not of the time they're not like technical, but what they're looking for is usually the description, the README. So I would definitely recommend have like a very nice README description of what your project do, like how did you achieve it, what technology did you use. Maybe it's just like a screenshot of like the app you built. And I think that was one of the factor why I got like my first internship, because back then when I applied to Google, I have zero like professional experience, but I have like 5 or 6 hackathon like project on my GitHub at the time, and they keep it active. And I think like they like the GitHub. I put it like on my resume. I think they like the GitHub, and then I got the interview. So I think, yeah, like it's always nice to have like just your GitHub there. Even if you don't actively maintain it, just put the project you did on there. Like even coursework is fine too. Though I think some professors do not allow to put your homework answer on GitHub, so you should not do that. But just put whatever is like you're allowed to put on there, and especially your personal project, because show like you actually like, you know, enjoy, like you actually like actively coding and like, yeah, do anything on like your free time.
A quick note on coursework. If you do decide to put your coursework on GitHub, which you first you shouldn't, try to make it more applicable to the real world. So if you're doing like a binary heap implementation, like in the README talk about, I don't know, like don't say CS260 assignment 15, just say like implementation of XYZ, like this could be used for these applications. And so for, again, like to Min's point, like that README is going to help.
Yeah, thank you for those. I'll chime in since I've been much more active on GitHub recently. Over the summer, I've been trying to use my quarantine time to, you know, flex and hopefully get noticed by big tech. We'll see. But yeah, I think one of the most important things that like you also don't learn in like an engineering school or in like in CCI is like proof of work and kind of like the business side of delivering value to your customers. I think Adit, you might have something to say about this as, you know, a founder of an app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. If I understand your question right, you'd like me to dive deeper into like how do you know if you are providing value to a customer?
I more so talking about kind of the difference between like, oh, I wrote a lot of code, I did this thing that makes me a valuable contributor versus like, oh, I actually delivered a solution.
I see. That's a great point. So I'm dealing with a similar problem, like a issue right now where I'm working with someone who's producing a lot of code but doesn't understand the end customer. So I think like you should always hire people or try to work with people that are fantastic customers, but also or fantastic coders or very talented, but also kind of understand the big picture a little bit, because then they'll optimize the solution for the big picture. And I think this has helped me a lot as well, like as a developer in the past. For one of my internships for SAP, I took an initiative to reach out to like my manager's manager to understand how this application I was working on would help like the bottom line of the business. And I think that'll just help you understand like how the company operates and like whether you want to work for the company or not, how much are they willing to share that stuff. But yeah, I think for anyone here, I think what might be more applicational is when you're working on a co-op, don't just code projects, try to understand the big picture of how that project fits into the company's mission and the value they're providing to their end customer. Because that'll either keep you more motivated, like, wow, this is going to be used by X amount of people and this helps my company like succeed a lot more, and other reasons as well. So I guess that's a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for that. And here's a quote just to kind of tie off that point, nice and neat. You know, junior engineers deliver code, senior engineers deliver solutions, right? That's something that I like to think about more often, because I find myself sometimes just kind of slogging through like an assignment or like a ticket on Jira or whatever it may be. And it doesn't actually do the thing that it needs to do. So, but it works, but it doesn't do the thing that it needs to do. So cool. Any other questions from the audience? Going once? Going twice? Cool. All right, I guess that is it. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you all coming out tonight, or evening or day, depending on time zones. And yeah, we, really hope to, see you again on the internet, wherever that may be, or in CCI, hopefully one day when we're all on campus. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting this and putting it together.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Inviting.
Thanks.